All right, and now on to our main event. Let's attempt to count the ways Facebook has influenced information and the way it's distributed. First, it's the largest multimedia platform on the planet, with more than 1 billion users per day. Its reach alone makes the company's influence on digital news and content distribution difficult to overstate. Add to that an astonishing number of features and products released over the last 16 months, all of which introduce fascinating new opportunities for publishers. While the potential reach of these products is groundbreaking, each major decision Facebook makes now has a profound impact on how communities receive and interact with news. And yes, not every decision favors news publishers. To name just a few developments this year, Facebook Live, essentially a live streaming platform for mobile phones, was launched. While its core is similar in functionality to Meerkat and Periscope, the sheer size of Facebook's audience made it instant competition. An adjustment to the algorithm powering newsfeed promotes updates from friends and families over publishers' content. And Instant Articles, a product designed to host media content, makes articles load faster and appear more fully integrated into newsfeed's design, was made available this year to publishers. Our speakers will discuss each of these updates, as well as how each decision Facebook makes now has an even more profound effect on news publishers and how communities receive and interact with news. Fidji Simo is here to help us break the Facebook code. Fidji is a director of product who leads the product teams in charge of media and advertising in newsfeed. Most recently, she launched live videos and video ads that autoplay in newsfeed, and Instant Articles. She was also in charge of simplifying Facebook's ad product suite from 27 ad formats to 7. She joined Facebook from eBay. There she was part of the strategy group and rotated through eBay's main offices in France, Spain, and the US. She then joined eBay's incubation team to develop new business. Joining her is Samantha Berry. Samantha Berry serves as CNN head of social media and senior director of social news, managing the company's global and social media teams. Her team spans social publishing, news gathering, digital, and TV, and are all responsible for the largest social accounts of any news brand in the world. Samantha is also currently a Sulzberger Fellow at Columbia University, with me, and a guest lecturer at Yale. And now I'll turn it over to Samantha to begin our keynote.
Thanks. Thanks for coming out this morning, everybody. I need to warn you, you have a French woman and an Irish woman on stage, so we have made the promise to not talk too fast during this discussion. I really want to take the next hour to delve into some of the questions that publishers, big and small, have with Facebook. I want to talk about Facebook Live, the path to monetization for content creators, and what's next for that relationship between Facebook and news. And we're also looking for your questions. Some of you have been sending in questions during the week. You can also do that today if you're in the room or you're watching one of the live streams. You just use the hashtag ONA16FB, and we'll try to get them put into the discussion towards the end. So, Fidji, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's actually my first year at ONA. I really wanted to come last year, but I was having a baby at this time, so that changed my plans a little bit. But I'm really, really excited to be here. I just have to say one thing. I'm pretty sick, so if at any point I lose my voice, I'm sorry for that. Don't worry, it's not pneumonia. But between that and the French accent, you know, one is curable, the other one is not. So I'm hoping that between the two are fine.
So let's get straight into it. Facebook Live, the world has been watching. Yeah. What's worked? What hasn't worked? What are some of the things that Facebook consider the biggest successes of Facebook Live?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're really excited with Facebook Live because we've seen so many of you innovating with the format. So everything I'm going to talk about is actually things that I've been informed by what you guys have done and trends that we're picking up. So in terms of what's working, I would say there are like broad themes that are that seem to be recurring. The biggest like records, and you guys are one of them, have to do with suspense, and that's kind of not too surprising because Live has always been kind of around suspense. So it's things like the guy climbing the Trump Tower. CNN was obviously a big part of that. It's things like car chases. It's things like the police coming and surrounded Chris Brown's house. All of these things have done very, very well on Live. But the more surprising things are things like weather. Like weather news are apparently very popular on Facebook Live because people like to feel like they're being taken in a moment. And we're seeing that things that are very visual, and weather news usually when you see like Ginger Z reporting in the middle of a tropical storm, it tends to be very visual. It brings people into the action and it makes them feel like they have access to a story that they wouldn't have access to otherwise. And that's actually something where we see a lot of, especially local news station, really leveraging that to tell a longer story than they would be able to tell during a broadcast, for example. So things like, for example, Thames Picayune, during the flooding in Baton Rouge, they went live broadcasting the rescue operation during the flooding. And it was a long live, but people were really interested in seeing how these operations happen. And so things that bring people behind the scenes are really resonating.
What hasn't worked? What do you watch and you say, oh no, that is just bad Facebook Live right there?
Well, so I think the main thing is doing things that are very visual and get people in. So things that are more talking heads tend to grab people less. They tend to work more with already loyal audiences that really care about the people on the screen, but they do worse at really grabbing people's attention in newsfeed and bringing you into the action. Another thing that's also suboptimal is just not engaging with the audience, because if you look at live, like you guys in this room know that live isn't new, like we haven't invented live. What we've done is try to bring the audience engagement as part of a live broadcast, really bringing your audience with you. So with Facebook Live, the beauty is that people are there ready to talk to you, and so any journalist that engages that audience usually does better than when it's really a one-way conversation.
Do you have some examples for you that the best newsrooms or journalists using it?
Yeah, so
don't say me.
obviously you guys have done a fantastic job, and I would actually love to hear more about like...
Well, it poses an interesting question, because CNN has the broadcast capabilities of a cable news network. We are pretty darn good at video and broadcast. How can somebody that's in a small newsroom in Dallas, that is a legacy news organization that doesn't have the video capabilities or the broadcast capabilities, how can they actually compete in the Facebook Live game? Because the differences of the streams have been pretty big, the quality of the streams.
So I would say there's actually two things. One is the beauty of Facebook Live is that it makes these broadcast capabilities available from a smartphone. And yes, like I won't say that the quality is the same, but we've seen a lot of journalists in the field recording from a smartphone, going live from their smartphone. And it's actually wonderful because people feel like it's really authentic. So we're seeing a lot of journalists who actually just like plop up their smartphone even when they're doing their broadcast live, and that gives people a different angle to what's happening on the screen. Or just like in the field, you know, we had Bill journalist Paul Ronsheimer who went live showing refugee crossing a river. Clearly, like that was done from a smartphone. All of these examples show that it's actually less about the quality, as in like visual quality of the video, and much more around like what is being broadcast and how interesting that is. So that's one big aspect. The other aspect is that actually getting that high production value is being made available much more through our API partners. And that's a big reason why we invest in the API, so that we have a network of technology partners that can help these small newsrooms get all the setups that they need, whether it's high production capabilities or overlays on top of the video, or all of these things that make it feel even more professional. They can get that through API partners.
Let's talk about, take it away from newsrooms for a little minute and talk about user-generated content on Facebook Live. We've had some really fun examples of it, being Chewbacca Mom being my favorite. And then some pretty raw and disturbing instances. Probably the prime example from Minnesota of the shooting of Philando Castile. Tell me how Facebook make the decision on what to broadcast, what not to broadcast, what to stop. How does that decision come about?
So we always, with our community standards, are trying to strike the right balance between enabling free expression, because we think it's absolutely critical to shine a light on these examples. And, you know, as heartbreaking as it was, I'm actually glad that this technology helped give that woman a voice. But at the same time, keeping our community safe. So when it comes to graphic violence, the things that we do is really look not just at the content, but also look at the context. And what I mean by that is that if it's a violent event that is shared to glorify violence, then it has no place on Facebook, and we decide to take it down. If it's a graphic violent event that is shared to condemn violence, then we definitely want to leave it up. But we also want to protect people who do not want to be exposed to violence in their newsfeed just by having a video autoplay. And so in that case, what we do is we put a graphic warning on top of the video. We don't autoplay the video, and we don't show it to people who are under 18. So these are decisions we make to really balance making sure that all of these people who want to have a voice, who want to shine a light, have a place to do that, and Facebook is a fantastic place to do that, while at the same time keeping the community safe.
How does that happen in real time when lives become so ubiquitous and the scale of Facebook is so huge? What is the real-time turnaround on something like that? If something is reported, if there's a Facebook Live that people are questioning, what's the real-time turnaround of that as it grows? Because the scale of Facebook Live is pretty darn big at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And so when we recognize that live presents new challenges for these types of issues, so what we've done is actually scale up our operations team to be able to handle the volume of requests. So when a video goes live, you can actually report it, especially for violence, anytime during the broadcast. And we have a community of people around the world working around the clock who are going to review that in real time and make the decision.
How big is that team? How big is that team?
We don't share numbers, but it's really big to be able to handle all these reports. The things that we also do is when a live becomes really popular, we have a team of people who proactively look at this content and make sure that this content is fine to stay on the site. So it's really important. Another thing that I will mention is we are looking for ways to figure out how to do that better. So that's a big part of why I'm here, is to hear ideas. And a couple of months ago, I think you were talking to our team and you were saying, well, actually publishers know when content can potentially be graphic. When you go live, for example, for the Trump Tower, you know that there is a risk that something bad happens. Why not let publishers put the flags themselves on, like, hey, this could be graphic content? And that's something we're actually working on building, so that publishers can give us a hand as well on, like, hey, actually you may want to pay attention to this video.
So that begs the question, is Facebook a media company?
That has been definitely a highly debated question, hasn't it? So I understand why you're asking. You know, we play a big role in the media industry, and we take that responsibility extremely seriously. The reason we consider ourselves primarily a technology company is because we don't create content, and we're not in the business of picking which topic the world should care about. What we really care about is making everyone have an experience in newsfeed where they see what they want to see. And so from that point of view, we consider ourselves very much as a platform to connect publishers to the people who want to see their content. That being said, we do have community standards. We do have values. And the community standards are meant to keep the community safe. The values are meant so that, you know, when you come to newsfeed, we inform our values based on what you want to see, and we've heard from the community that they want to see more from friends and family first, and then they want to be informed and entertained.
Right.
We've also heard that they care a lot about authentic communications, and that's why we took steps to reduce clickbait and hoaxes in newsfeed. So all of these things mean that we are definitely trying to strike the balance between being this platform for all ideas and also keeping our community safe.
You touched on fake stories there,
Yes.
and the fact that you're not content creators. But I think sometimes the question on whether Facebook is a media company comes into play when we talk about curation. So with the trending team, you took away the human editors, and now it's based off an algorithm. And there's been questions about the curation of fake news in there. What steps are Facebook going to take in order to combat that?
Yeah. So we care a lot about making sure that what's shared on Facebook is authentic. We are trying to find ways to address the problem at our scale. And one of the ways that we have put in place in Newsfeed is this ability for people to report that a story is misleading. And that's a really great signal, because once we get that, we start giving less distribution to that story. And if a large number of people report it, we actually put a mention next to the story saying, hey, just a heads up for people who see it, a large number of people have reported that story as misleading. We haven't yet implemented that and all of these tools in trending. And these are things that we are looking to do because, you know, trending, like, we really want to make it so that it can scale across the world, which is why, like, algorithm really help us with that. But we also know that the product is not as good as we want it to be right now.
So you're working on.
So we want to continue working on it. We're really open to advice and thoughts on how to do that better. And yeah, that's something we're going to keep on improving in the coming months.
So you have a lot of oversee on products at Facebook, and we've seen in the last few years, that most of the products that Facebook are coming out with are to keep people within the Facebook ecosystem. Instant articles, Facebook Live, native videos doing so well up there. Now, Facebook argue that this is a much better experience for the audiences. But for the content creators in this room, it begs the question, where's the money? How can you make money on Facebook? What's the path to significant, sustainable monetization for content creators on Facebook?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way I think about it is that there's really three buckets. There's one bucket which is around, like, helping you grow your audience, because ultimately it translates into money. So I'm going to talk about that. Another part is for the content that's on Facebook, helping you monetize that content. And then finally, helping you monetize on your own properties. So let's start with the first one, on growing traffic. One of the promises of Instant Articles was really around the fact that with speed would come more audiences, because people would be more engaged, would want to read more of your articles. And we really hoped it would be true, but we're really happy now to see the result that it's actually true. So earlier this week, we actually released a stat that if you post your content on Instant Articles, people are going to read 25% more than on the mobile web in the US. It's actually 48% when you look at that globally, because in some regions where the connectivity is lower, Instant Articles is even more of a benefit because of the speed. So you look at something like Southeast Asia, and it's 68% increase in traffic. You look at a place like Latin America, 73% increase in traffic. India, it's 84% increase. So all of these things help you sort of grow your audience. Video, same thing. I won't dwell on that, but we're definitely a great place to find a video audience. So now that you have this audience, the second bucket is obviously how do you monetize it when it's on Facebook. And there's really Instant Articles, branded content, and video. On Instant Articles, we started with really the promise of giving the publisher 100% of the revenue, and that's something that we really plan on sticking to, even though I know a lot of publishers were wondering if that was something that was going to go away. We really want to continue doing that. And what we've done over the last year is really listen to publishers' feedback on how to improve monetization in that space. And over the months, we've actually made a lot of refinements to the product to accommodate for a lot of the requests we've heard. Earlier this week, we actually allowed larger ads in Instant Articles so that any publisher who has a custom business and wants to bring all of the ads that they sell directly onto Instant Articles can now do that. So we're going to continue refining, but the monetization is getting really good in Instant Articles.
Do you see a time do you see a time where a publisher or a media company can make as much of their Facebook monetization as they do off their own sites? Because that's a good bit away. That's a long way away in my head. I wonder where you see when you see that actually happening.
So on Instant Articles, it's actually the case for a few publishers, already. And we're seeing Mike shared that in press. I think Business Insider did the same. Libération in France did the same. So we're actually seeing a lot of examples where that's already the case. Definitely for the people for who that's not true yet, we want to help them close the gap. And that's something like the changes this week should help greatly with.
You announced a couple of changes to the ad formats this week. How do you think audiences are going to react to that? Maybe talk to the room about what those ad formats look like, and how are you testing them in big scale, small scale? How are the audiences going to react to something like a mid-roll? Because it's a...
Yes, so that was kind of the other thing around video, where on video, we've been a little slower in figuring out how to help you guys monetize on Facebook. And the reason for that is because we wanted to create formats that were not interruptive. And pre-rolls, is like pretty interruptive when you are right about to discover some content. So we really didn't want to put any barrier between the audience saying that they want to watch something and this content actually showing up. One thing that we've been testing is actually the concept of a mid-roll, which especially in a live environment fits very well, because the host can say, hey, like, I am going to be back, let's take a quick break. And we've seen that for the few partners we've tested with work really well, and people really understand the concept and be like, okay, yes, that makes a lot of sense. And so this is something we're planning on expanding, at least on live this year. And then it's something that you may see us really test with in a non-live environment on regular videos in the coming year. So I'm actually really excited about that, because you were asking, what are the ways in which publishers can make money? I was talking about Instant Articles, but we all know that more and more of publishers' content is going to be video, so we want to find a way for them to monetize that video content.
What's the Facebook feed going to look like in next year, 5 years' time? Is it going to be all video? What's it going to look like?
So, we can hardly predict the future, because a lot of what we do is based on what people do on the site, and reacting and building products based on what they tell us they want. But what I can say based on what I'm seeing right now is that I think it's going to be more video, a lot more video. I think it's going to be more immersive, and that's why we are making such a big investment on 360 videos as well, because people want to feel like they're part of the action. And so we're seeing a lot of newsrooms actually embrace that. The most popular 360 video is ABC News, who did this 360 video from Times Square in the middle of the blizzard, and that was just a wonderful video. PBS NewsHour did this documentary about the hunger crisis in South Sudan. And so all of these technologies, when I say immersive, they're actually meant at driving more empathy, because you put the viewer at the center, and that's something that a lot of you guys care a lot about when you write stories, when you create video content to tell stories. So I think 360 is going to play a big part. And then the other thing in terms of trends is, I think it's going to be more social. It's going to be more around putting people at the center, not just in terms of putting them in the action like 360, but also giving them a voice and letting them debate about these ideas. And that's why we're so excited about live, because live has been such a tool to have that dialogue. Live videos generate 10 times as many comments than regular videos, because people feel like they're being heard and they want to have a dialogue between themselves and with the broadcaster.
Talking about being heard and immersive experiences,
yes.
How are Facebook going to get people to turn on the volume when they're watching video? Because they don't, right? A good percentage, I don't know if you have the numbers, don't watch video on Facebook without sound. Now, newsrooms have adapted to that by putting captions on, by putting a lot of text on screen. How are Facebook going to get people to turn on the sound?
So, interesting stat, it's actually 50% of the time spent watching videos on Facebook is with sound on. But you're right, you need to get people into that experience first. We are actually running a test to turn sound on by default in Newsfeed by respecting just the hardware settings. So if your phone, the hardware is just on sound off, we wouldn't play the sound in Newsfeed. But if you've said, yeah, I accept sound on my phone right now, we would actually play the sound right in line in Newsfeed. It's right now a very small test. We're testing in Australia.
How's that going to happen when people are having a sneaky look at Facebook and work and they have the volume on? It might be awkward.
Is your boss in the room,
She's
and does
over
she
here.
know about this behavior?
It's part of my job.
So
you're going to roll out a test with autoplay sound on.
yes, and so we want to see like how people react, because a lot of people have told us that they actually want to have an experience where they get immediately like all the information that they need to understand if they want to watch the video. So as long as we respect, the hardware settings, we think that actually that could be a much better experience. Now, it's really just a test. We'll see how that goes. But that's kind of to illustrate your point of like, we're thinking about it. We know this is like very critical for you guys to be able to tell a story, and it's something we want to make better. In the meantime, captions work very well, and we've rolled out automated captions, and also for newsrooms, yes, putting on-screen graphics is something that has worked really well in terms of getting people sucked into the experience.
What other products are coming down the road that journalists and newsrooms need to know, should know about?
Yeah, so there are a few that are really interesting, I think. What we mostly care about is giving you guys the tools to create more awesome content, and also giving you the tools to monetize that content. On the first one, we are actually in the process of rolling broadcasting from web now, which can be interesting for newsroom, especially for journalists who are doing a lot of Q&As. We see Nick Christoph, as soon as he publishes a column, he goes live and he engages with his audience. So broadcasting from web can be pretty powerful. We're also rolling out this tool called comment pinning, which is the ability to pin a comment while the video is live, whether it's a comment from the audience or a comment from the broadcaster, so that the person on screen can really highlight for the rest of the viewers what is the question that's being answered right now, which I think is also going to be really great. We have also heard that a lot of media organizations don't feel comfortable giving a ton of journalists in the field admin access to their page, but they want them to be able to go live from that page at any moment. And so we're rolling out also tools to have something called a broadcaster role, which is a way to give all journalists in the field access to just going live from the page without anything else. So great. Apparently that's going to solve a lot of problems. That's amazing. On the monetization side, we've announced a lot of things this week. One thing that I didn't mention that I also want to call out is branded content is something that is being definitely used by a lot of you guys. We're seeing, now these amazing campaigns with Kleenex. I know that CNN is doing something with the Sully movie. So we know it's a growing part of your business, and we've enabled that in April. It's been going really well. We want to continue improving that for you guys. And we've heard a couple things. We've heard that journalists want to be able to tag several sponsors in their content, and we're going to be rolling that out. We also heard that publishers want to be able to look at a campaign across several branded content posts in aggregate, so that's also something we're going to be rolling out. And then in terms of monetization, you mentioned, like monetization on your own properties. We think it's really important to also sustain your subscription businesses for the people for whom that matters. And so we've been rolling out a test of giving people a call to action in instant articles, telling them to give the email addresses to the publisher so that the publisher can upsell them into a subscription. That's going really well. We've rolled out to about 20 publishers, and that's something that we plan on expanding to continue supporting just all the businesses that you have, whether it's like monetizing your content on our site, on your site, on via subscription, via branded content. We know it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all, and so that's something that we want to continue really investing in.
Tell me this, if you ever get a group of social journalists or social editors together, having a drink, they're not even halfway through the first drink and they're talking about the algorithm, right? It seems like this mythical, magical game that we're playing.
I don't want to know what the conversation
I know,
looks like
right?
after many drinks.
It feels like you're in an MBA final or something. You're trying to figure out how to work it. There's been some recent changes to the newsfeed. You touched on it earlier, and it seems to have affected the reach, engagement, and referrals for some publishers. How do you see the relationship between Facebook and news publishers evolving when we're playing that algorithm game? And how you know, any tips to beat it would be great as well.
I haven't shared the tips yet. So, at a high level, the goal of newsfeed is to really get people to see the content that they want to see. And we're constantly refining that because we're learning from people about what they want to see. So for example, a little more than a year ago, a lot of people started expressing angst that they weren't seeing the content, all the content from their friends. So that's why we made a change to the algorithm to make sure that these stories were showing up at the top. More recently, we sort of did that research again, and people were still complaining that they were missing stories from their friends, which is why, again, we made this change. In the same vein, people were also saying, well, we actually really like informative content. When we come to newsfeed, we want to be informed. And that's why we made the change to the informative change, which is really around predicting whether a story is going to be informative and making sure that that story gets more distribution. So at a high level, there isn't really a way to game the algorithm except really creating content that resonates with your audience. So when I think about the burden that Facebook has, I think it's really twofold. It's one, being extremely transparent with you guys on why we make certain changes and what you can expect. And we're at the point where we're communicating about every single change. You know, the friend change was an interesting example where we communicated very loudly about it to make sure that everybody would know about it. And now we look at the results, and actually for most publishers, it doesn't change that much in terms of traffic, but we prefer over-communicating to make sure that you guys are really aware about what's coming. So we're going to continue working on that and having like a lot of transparency about how we make decisions about what's coming. And then the second thing is giving you guys really great insights so that you understand your audience and you understand what they want and what's going to resonate in newsfeed. And we've actually seen consistently that publishers who spend a lot of time in insights, really looking at what's resonating, that really helps their distribution. I wouldn't say it helps them game the algorithm, but it definitely helps them figure out, okay, what is it that's going to resonate with my audience? And actually, Sam, I'm curious because you've done really, really well with that strategy. So I'm actually curious.
It's my team. I give all credit to my team, but I feel like we have really gone to where the audiences are and really committed to putting native video up on Facebook and doing a lot of Facebook Live and playing in that ecosystem at the expense of referrals, so that we want to play in the audience where the audiences are, and that's why we're doing well on, or at least it's to some extent well on the algorithm. Tell me about the newsfeed though, and it kind of goes back to Facebook Live. Do you imagine we're going to see lots more original programming or timed programming or regular programming on Facebook Live? Will we see when you log into Facebook, will you see a schedule of what's going to come up tonight? Will it be a TV?
Yeah, so we have done a bunch of research on what people want with video overall. And one thing that we found out is that people say newsfeed is great for discovery because, I stumble upon a lot of great content in my newsfeed. But people do want a dedicated place that they can go to discover video when they're in the mood for videos. And that's part of the reason why we've created the video tab, which we're still in the process of rolling out. It's actually rolled out to 100% of people in Thailand where, the live ecosystem is thriving there for whatever reason. And so we are seeing people start developing this behavior of going to this tab to really see what's on, And I think we're going to start seeing that even more when we roll out the ability to schedule live videos, which is coming in the next month or so. And the main reason for that is because publishers have been telling us that they want to start thinking about Facebook Live that way in terms of really gathering audiences and building behavior and making sure that the audiences are there the minute they go live. So scheduling live is going to be like definitely a part of that. I don't think it's going to be all of it because there's always these moments of greatness that you can't plan and where it's really good to just like get your phone out of your pocket and go live. So I don't think it's going to be all of it, but I think we're going to start seeing more of that in the coming months.
Does Facebook want to compete with Netflix as the place to go to watch on-demand video?
I think it's very different content, and like video is such a broad ecosystem that there's a place for a lot of players. So right now we're really focused on the content that resonates best on Facebook and very focused on live.
So what's coming down the road for you in product that you're excited about?
Yeah, so I think, in terms of like big buckets of things, it's all about immersiveness, and it's a theme that applies across all of our products. Very soon we're going to be rolling out 360 videos in Instant Articles. We want to be rolling out all of these immersive experiences really across the board and seeing how people react to that. And then the other big bucket is just more tools for you to be able to put your content on Facebook, see the results, build a business with us. And that's a big part of why I'm here today. It's actually hear the feedback and figure out what's next on our roadmap. I have a full calendar of meetings with a lot of you in this room, and I just want to hear about what it is that's going to help you build the next set of innovative tools.
So back to the monetization part a little bit, because it's great that you're putting in place the path to sustainable monetization for newsrooms. What happens if you're not a CNN, and again, you're a small newsroom and you don't have the scale, but you want to build a community on Facebook? How do you even get in there as a small newsroom, build a community, make an impact in a place like Facebook so you can monetize on that platform?
I think what I've been really positively surprised by is that small newsrooms have been very successful because they know how to create communities. That's what they've been doing outside of Facebook for years. And so Facebook is actually a great place to do that, especially if you have a niche audience and you want to find that niche audience on Facebook, because you can engage them over and over again, and they share with their friends who are likely to sometimes like the same things they do, so you can expand your audience that way. And what we've seen being most successful there is really like invest in the people, behind the news, and give people access to how the news are made so that people can relate to that more. My favorite example is David Paul from a Houston CBS affiliate. He's a chief meteorologist, and during the flooding in Houston, he went live every 30 minutes overnight to keep the community updated outside of the broadcast about everything that was happening. And that's such a great service for the community to do that you build loyalty this way, and we're just giving you the tools to connect with that community in real time in the place where they're likely to hang out while waiting for news.
I'm going to go to some of the questions we're getting in. Thanks for all your great questions.
Yes,
and again, the hashtag is ONA16FB, and it's to the last point that we talked about, how people are going to discover live and video. Charo asks, will Facebook develop a standalone live video app for devices, such as Apple TV and Roku?
That's a great question. On that, we think there's definitely something about like seeing things on a big screen, and we've started rolling out the ability to cast to TV. So when you're looking at a live video, you can now tap on the live video and cast to your Apple TV or cast via Chromecast. And we're going to see how that goes, and we're going to see if people use that and if they watch more on TV, and that's going to inform the next steps of our product roadmap.
Because you separated out messaging, and that's its own app.
Yeah.
And as video comes down the road, would it make sense to have a separate app in the Facebook family for video or for live?
I think we're a little early on that. Like Messenger got separated after being in the Facebook app for years. So the first step for us is really having this tab in the Facebook app and seeing how people use it, going to the tab, whether they build this behavior where they start thinking about that as kind of a separate destination, and then that will inform what we do next, but that's really the first step.
Katie wants to know, how much is too much Facebook Live? When should we do post produce video instead?
I can never have enough of Facebook Live. You know, I think it really depends on what is the story you're telling and what is going to resonate best for that particular story. An example that I really like is New York Times and Deborah Costa. She did this wonderful story where she found a bag of abandoned slides on the street, and she chased down the story using Live. And so with Live, she brings the audience in the middle of the investigation while she's making phone calls to figure out who abandoned the bag of slides. But then at the end of that, she compiled all the lives together in a beautifully produced regular video. And it's clearly a story, like you see the regular video, it's clearly a story that couldn't be told just on Live. And so the complementarity between the two was really interesting for me to see, because it really showed what Live was good for, which is this audience engagement, this like bringing people into the moment, this grittiness, and then what regular videos was good for, which is like kind of telling the full story end to end in a very packaged way. So it really depends on what story you want to tell.
How do the Facebook Live team feel when they see their lives end up on TV? So the example at the congressional sit-in here in the US, that was Facebook Live we put it through our system on air. How do the Facebook Live team feel about that when you're setting the news agenda in terms of access to broadcast?
Well, I think, we are super humbled that our tools are used in these settings, because our entire mission, is to give people a voice. And so in these settings where there isn't any other access and you can just pull up your phone and actually broadcast to the world, we think it's really powerful. And we're super humbled when newsrooms use that as a way to inform the rest of the world and use your platforms to do that.
Michael asks, he says, you mentioned debate, but Facebook suffers from political self-sorting, that social media.
Sorry, mention what?
He says you mentioned debate around
debate,
Facebook, but Facebook itself suffers from the self-sorting, so that social media bubble. How do you burst through that bubble as an individual, as a news organization?
So, to a certain extent, Facebook is very much a reflection of how people engage in the real world. And people in the real world usually do have a tendency to connect with friends that have similar opinions. But we've seen that at a large scale, at a scale of many friends, all the many friends that you have on Facebook, you actually end up having a lot of friends that have diverse opinions. And the thing I love most about Facebook is that it makes it very easy to see these different opinions, whether it's from your friends or whether it's from other pages on the site that appear in your newsfeed because some friends have shared them or because we suggest that you follow them. So really what we're thinking about is like how to make it as easy as possible for you to connect to any source and really get exposed to a large range of opinions. Another thing that is really important is that we reward conversations. And what I mean by reward is, like, in a very practical sense, we give more distribution to posts in newsfeeds that have a lot of engagement, a lot of comments. And when you look at comments, a lot of the comments actually see two sides of an opinion. And so we really want to give more visibility to this conversation and people debating on the site.
So do you think opinions and comments, I watched this play out in a newsfeed as well, where maybe if you're straight news, it doesn't have, if you are going straight down the middle and you're not taking an opinion, it's less powerful on Facebook. But if you are coming out with an opinion, a side, you're taking a point of view, whether that be for newsrooms or individual, you're probably going to get more exposure. What's your thought on that? And even the reactions button, having the ability to react in so many different ways now.
You know, I think it all depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Sometimes going like for just the facts without a point of view is actually the best way to inform people, and we reward that through all the things we do to make sure that informative content has a high place in newsfeed. going for a point of view is always like naturally gonna elicit reactions. And so that's also something where we want to make sure that these conversations do happen on Facebook, and so that people from all sides of the political spectrum can participate in the conversation.
There was an amazing ONA panel here last year. You weren't here, but it was great female journalists sitting on stage, women talking about how they had been trolled or attacked, and it's something that in particular that affects women journalists and anchors. How are Facebook trying to combat that type of thing? Because everyone loves an opinion, but we don't want the mean people online either.
Totally. That's something we take extremely seriously. And I think to a certain extent, we suffer from this risk a lot less because on Facebook, you have authentic identity. And the fact that people are their real selves on Facebook means that they're less likely to be trolls. And so that's why, like to a large extent, we have seen that problem play out way less on Facebook than on other platforms. That being said, we are still building a lot of tools to make sure that this stuff doesn't happen. And in live in particular, where it's an environment that is pretty critical for this type of problems, we are giving the broadcaster a lot of tools to get rid of these comments. So when you're in the broadcast, you can delete any comment, and you can also block a specific person from coming into your broadcast at all, which I think is a really powerful way to keep the broadcaster really in control and create this safe environment.
I've got a question from Andrew, and you talked about it earlier, and it really seems like definitely the immersive experiences of VR and 360 video are something that Facebook are looking at and concentrating on. Will Facebook provide publishers simple and cost-effective tools for authoring VR? It's not a cheap process, is it, at the moment?
We are definitely working on making that better. So there's a lot of different things as part of the 360 and VR ecosystem that you have to do. One is the actual capture and the camera technology. And for that, we've invested a lot in this open source technology called Surround 360, where we're open sourcing the specs to building a camera and really working with the rest of the industry to actually get these cameras built and making sure that they're in the hands of publishers who want to do these types of things. It's also like after the video has been captured, all the post-production, which is really important. And for that, we've created a lot of tools, like for example, the 360 guide, which allows you to direct the viewer attention throughout the video and therefore make sure that they're always looking at the point of interest that is most important in the 360 video, even if they're passive and not moving around, which is extremely important for telling a story in VR. And then the last stage is really giving you guys insights so you can refine what you do. And a good example of that is what we did with a heat map, where we're showing you throughout your video what are the places that people looked at more, like in the field of view, so that you can get a sense for what are the things that resonate most in VR, because we're all learning about that. It's so new that we want to give publishers a lot of tools to understand what's going to resonate most. So it's a big investment for us.
I'm a small newsroom somewhere in India, and I want to make a bet on Facebook. Am I putting my money into Facebook Live, instant articles, VR, post-produced video? I have to pick one. I don't have an unlimited budget. What would you advise smaller newsrooms and smaller operations? They had to go all in on one thing. What would it be?
I am trying hard not to dodge the question by just telling you that, instant articles shouldn't be like a heavy investment. It's literally taking the content that you already have and plugging it onto Facebook, and we've made that so easy that it shouldn't be a big investment. Live, same thing. Like, assuming you have a smartphone, like this is something that is very easy to do. 360 has a higher barrier to entry, but a good example of like an entry point into 360 is 360 photos. The New York Times had this wonderful 360 photo of the inside of the Supreme Court, which is a place that not a lot of us get to see. And that was simply a panorama, And so I think, and a panorama can be done with, an iPhone. So I think it has less to do with picking one and just finding the easiest entry point to any of these things to test and get a feel for what's going to work for you.
A follow-up question from Joy, who asks, not all news is video content. How does a news outlet and audiences that deal mostly in text, how do they compete at Facebook?
So we continue to see, people engaging a lot in articles. That's why we're making such a big investment in instant articles. So there's absolutely no doubt that the reading experience is going to be critical for situations where you don't want to watch video or for situations where the story is just best told in text. And so how do you compete? Doing instant articles is going to help a lot because that's going to mean that your content is fast and that people want to engage with it more. And then it's looking at your insights and figuring out what resonates. But there really isn't this mentality that you have to do video. Like some stories really are best told in text, and that's something that people are telling us they want.
Talking about insights, we've got a question. What's the best performing length of Facebook Live posts? Do you have any insights on what, in a hypothetical world, the best length, the best time of day? What insights do you have as Facebook Live? What works best?
So I wish I had best practices that apply across the board, but it's really dependent on which topic you're talking about. Like, for example, food magazines are probably not going to have a ton of success at 8 in the morning, but that's going to resonate more during lunch. So it really, really varies based on what your audience is, what your topics are. In terms of length, I can offer some more specific advice, which is we are seeing that getting past 10 minutes is actually a good idea because it takes that much for audiences to gather. We start seeing them really gather around 5 minutes, and then at 10 minutes you've really gotten everyone who was that we sent a notification to come. You've gotten a lot of people who were gonna discover you in their newsfeed to see that video in their newsfeed. So I think at least making it past the 10 minutes mark to make sure that your audience is there and they're engaged is a really good idea. There isn't, I would say, maximum length. It's just, again, what is the story you want to tell and adapting based on that.
Talk to me about the discoverability of Live, because when it launched, in particular around newsrooms, everybody was going a bit mad, subscribing to the ones they wanted to. Yeah. And with the exception of maybe the Watermelon, the Trump Towers, a couple of others, there doesn't seem to be that, they're not that easy to discover.
Yeah. That's something we're working hard on. So there are a couple of avenues to discover them. One is notifications, and there we're always striking the balance between making sure that people don't miss something that they really care about that's live, because that makes them mad, but also not spamming them. So we're constantly refining who to send notifications to, and really trying to get people to say yes, raise their hand and say, I want to get notifications every time CNN goes live. Another avenue is newsfeed, and there we've constantly refined as well what people want to see, and we make sure that when a video is live, which is really when most of the engagement should happen, we show it higher in newsfeed, and so also constantly refining that. And then the last place is really the video tab, which we're hard at work trying to roll out globally, because that's going to be a place where people can go to, tap on it, and discover content they're not necessarily connected to.
Where we see that? In the newsfeed, the video tab?
You will see that at the bottom of the app. There's going to be a little video button. You tap on it, and it's going to open up a purely video experience. And I think it's really important because newsfeed is still limited to the sources you connect to. And even though you can connect to new sources by seeing your friends share that content, we want a place where we can tell you, hey, a lot of people are watching that broadcast, something hot is happening right now, you should tune in to watch, and that's really going to be the video tab.
You talked about notifications. A lot of people watching and in this room live in the world of notifications and alerting and ask the questions, what's too much, what's too little? Any insights from Facebook on that newsrooms and media companies can take when it comes to the world of alerting and notifications?
you know, the biggest thing that we've learned is that you need to listen to what people want, and you need to put in place in your products the mechanism to capture what people want. So we have ways to turn off notifications on an individual basis, on a actor basis, basically every level of granularity possible, just so we capture what is really the intent that people have. And so really implementing the tools so that people can tell you what is working for them, what is not working for them, is a really good signal to figure out when you're crossing the line or not. And obviously monitoring the click-through rate of this notification and adjusting based on that, finding patterns, is really how we do it. I'm sure that's not news to you guys, but that's really how we've approached the problem.
I'm interested in how the relationship with Facebook and news develops when we talk about data. Right? So the insights are great, but you, at your fingertips, have a lot of information that newsrooms would love. Personally, I'm obsessed with news habit, and I would love to know how many people are seeing CNN news content 4, 5, 6 times a week, and what we would consider a habit. Is there going to be a place where Facebook are going to share more and more of the data and the information you have about our audiences on your platform?
Absolutely. We really want to continue doing that, because the thing that we're trying to do is make sure that we're a platform where you can build relationship with your readers, and we are firm believers that to build that relationship, you need to understand them deeply. So we actually rolled out over the last couple of months a lot of improvements to our insights, including for video, a very detailed breakdown of your audience, whether it's age, gender, location, which has become super popular with publishers like from the minute we launched that. So really for us, it's figuring out what are the data points that are going to inform your content strategies, that are going to inform what you want to do on Facebook, so that we can prioritize that. Because as you can imagine, when we talk to all of you, like there's a very, very long list of insights that everyone wants. So we're always in the process of refining what is going to be most impactful for you to understand what people want and build that relationship with them.
I feel like at the moment we get it in scale, we get the big scale numbers, and this is where your audience from. But I do think a lot of newsrooms would like to dig into the detail of who's actually consuming our content on Facebook. We've got a question from Amy. She says, what is Facebook's ethical responsibility in trending news and ensuring it's accurate?
So I've touched a little bit on trending, you know. The reason we build trending is because people have told us that they really care about understanding what's happening in the world and like the concept of breaking news. And the product initially, you know, relied a lot on human editing for the description, for the title, and that's great, but it's something that we want to scale and to take the product global, because we want to make it accessible to all the audiences that could benefit from it. We've taken this algorithmic approach, and we really want to make it better. Like, you know, we do not want any fake news trending. Like, this is something that we take very seriously. So we know we're not where we're supposed to be, and we want to continue improving that product to make it so that, like, all the news that are there are accurate.
Will there be a case where you do bring back human editors?
So we are definitely not opposed to human editing in general when it makes our products better, but the thing that we care about is really the scale and being able to bring that product to audiences around the world, and it's really hard to do with human editors. So we're hoping that we can actually rely on the technologies that we build to be able to scale that.
So tell me what you're most excited about in the next 6 months.
Yeah, so, you know, most excited about seeing really what you guys are going to do with our products. Live has been such a success, and something that honestly took us by surprise. We didn't expect to see so many different use cases for Live. So I'm really excited to see how you guys are going to continue innovating on that. We recently launched the ability to go live with someone, and we had like Rebecca Jarvis use it with Mr. Wonderful as a first test partner. That's something I'm excited to see in terms of like, how are you going to use that for interviews, for collaborations, for all kinds of new formats that I'm hoping to see on Facebook. I'm really excited about 360 videos and seeing, you know, how we can tell stories that you guys have learned how to tell, and because you're in the field and you're seeing absolutely amazing and impactful things, how can we make that even better with technologies that are immersive and are allowing you to bring people in the middle of the action? So I think that's something that's also super exciting. And then the last thing is really just excited to help you build a business on Facebook. You know, this question around monetization has come up over and over again, obviously, and we've taken real steps to address it. And so I'm excited to see that play out, and excited to see the types of things that we can build together when we're able to build a business together.
What are the key dates for those monetizations? What's the roadmap? Can you share with us?
Yeah, so on Instant Articles, the changes roll out, like we announced this week, the changes are rolling out for the larger ad formats. On branded content, the new tools are going to be rolling out this year in terms of, you know, ability to manage campaigns together. On video, what we're thinking is really expanding the live ad breaks that we're testing to a lot more partners this year, and then starting to look at what we can do for regular videos and applying the same concept next year.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
and
you.
Facebook have a couple of sessions that you want to let the audience know about that's coming up.
Yes, we have sessions today about 360, and I think Instagram, and then tomorrow about live. So we would love to have you guys attend these. And in general, you know, I'm around. I would love to talk to a lot of you guys, and I'm just excited to continue this dialogue. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Fidji. Thank you.